Hello and welcome to Pricing College with your hosts Aidan Campbell
and Joanna Wells.
At Tiller Wells, I suppose we have worked with quite a few B2B businesses over the last couple of years. But one of the things I think nearly every company says when you start working with them is, do you know my industry? You know, we're different. Our industry is different. That won't work here. And I suppose in today's episode, which we're going to structure a little bit like an interview format, we're going to talk about B2B. And so I suppose we're going to kick off by asking Joanna, what is different about B2B?
Well, different to what? I think in terms of difference, B2B is considered different because it's complex. And often I hear a lot of our clients saying, we do operate in a very complex market and our business model and operations are complex. And look, they are. Really are. I mean, they if they're a manufacturer, for instance, they're selling often through multiple channels. They've got resellers. They've got channel partners to consider when they're pricing. They've also got specific customers that buy from them on contract, customers that buy from them through like a spot price market system. And overall, when you consider all those different price points and all those channels, that can lead to a fair bit of channel conflict and pricing complexity, especially if, for instance, there's no pricing manager to manage the prices, or there's not a disciplined way to manage and set prices.
You know, I think that point you made there about the different channels, like generally you ask a B2B, many of them, how will you sell a product? And they'll be like, however a customer will buy from me. You know, they almost are open to everything. Whereas, you know, B2C, it's often we are retail, you know, we sell through stores, we are an online selling business, and we're a direct mail marketing business. You know, so I think that is interesting. And I suppose, do you think that's a negative for some B2B? Do you think the fact that that they don't have a strict, I suppose it's almost a strict business model. You know, they provide a service, but the way they charge for it, the way they sell it, the way they deliver it is not always it's not set in stone.
Yeah, I don't think it often starts that way. I think over time, you know, B2B businesses, they acquire other businesses. They then acquire new people. They acquire a new operational model. They also acquire inventory, and often it gets bundled together with their existing. And over time, if you can just think over time, if that keeps happening, and then you acquire their customers, and all of that, the complexity involved increases as sort of the understanding of the original value proposition is lost. I honestly don't think that a company starts without knowing what its value is, because they don't last for long. And a lot of our clients, you know, they're multi-million-dollar companies. They're successful, and they did start with a very strong core purpose and mission. But over time, through disruption, accelerated competitor intensity in certain markets, and as well as mergers and acquisitions, you know, it muddies the water, and our customers sometimes they lose their way. So a lot of the advice is going, you know, back to, you know, core pricing and value principles to reinstate a new proposition that works for a new market, a new industry, and a new customer base.
Yeah, I suppose on that point about channels, one thing I still think is a bit surprising is how, you know, websites and selling online is still not that big for a lot of B2B, at least in Australia. It's still primitive. Not primitive, sorry, but underdeveloped might be the word I want to use. And of course, this does not apply to all B2B companies. But, you know, I suppose I'll ask Joanna, is there room for improvement in that as a sales, as an efficiency, as a method?
Yes, there's definitely, it's a great opportunity. You know, the rest of the world are doing it. B2B there's definitely disruption in the B2B market use an e-commerce system to, in a way, bypass distributors, resellers that are muddying the waters and increasing price complexity and going straight for customers, making it easier for customers to buy from them as well. Unfortunately, from what we've seen, though, it's not a quick and easy channel to transition to, even though it is a very popular channel and it makes a lot of sense. And the reason behind this comes down to very simple things. Often many B2B businesses are running off legacy systems, the payment systems, right through to the website, really not capable to really manage and deliver, proper e-commerce level of service for customers. It actually makes it harder to buy and quite a frustrating experience to buy still to this day. And often when you're talking about transitioning to online and IT, you're actually talking about, introducing a whole new level of capability in the team, which often is not there, or it's overlooked. And then I suppose it's investment in it. I think there is in Australia anyway, quite a bit of hesitation to move quickly to e-commerce platforms, even though it makes sense and the rest of the world are sort of doing it. There's not that investment and impetus really here that I've seen. And it's a bit like treading water, really. I think a lot of businesses know it's a good thing, but maybe they don't know how to do it, or they don't have the funds now, especially after COVID and all of that sort of stuff, to really make a full investment in that particular area.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. Like a lot of B2B, when I'm saying B2B, for some reason I'm thinking more industrial, but there is, I suppose, some of those companies are mid-market. They're not major national companies, but they're, in the 100 million, 200 million revenue category. They're facing, imports, potentially cheaper imports, potentially larger corporations, multinationals and that sort of thing. So I can see why they're threatened. When I think of B2B, certainly from a pricing perspective, it's certainly different to B2C, and you're up against procurement. When you're selling to a customer, there's a couple of questions I think I'd like to put in this and ask Joanna. The first one is, how do B2B do value discovery? If you're selling a consumer product, it's much easier to ask many thousands of people, and quite often they're happy to give reviews on review sites. When you're selling a product to a business, oftentimes that business, it might be procurement that's, who it's in their interest almost to tell you that your product's not that good or to underplay it. How do you go through value discovery? And I suppose, what does going up against procurement, what does that really mean?
I suppose, we've heard about this. The rise of procurement is a trend, more than a trend now. We're all experiencing it. And it's accelerated over the last 10 years to the point now that, most B2B have faced quite, hard-nosed procurement people. And procurement are in turn, looking at pricing, are very interested in looking for price inconsistencies in suppliers' product inventories to then go, aha, I see my opportunity to ask for further price reductions at a price unit level. So look, I suppose what I'm saying really is that they're more prepared in our experience for that price negotiations than many suppliers, even though suppliers are experiencing this sort of tough, hard-nosed procurement, almost smoke and mirrors type of negotiation. And unfortunately, Aidan, I think, value discovery, even the term value discovery is something that a lot of B2B businesses need, but they haven't yet implemented and they don't know how to do it. And often, unfortunately, we see, really great salespeople going up against a more prepared procurement team and not being able to defend the value of their offer. And partly because, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, is because they don't understand the offer themselves. They after many years of complexity, it all gets very, quite difficult to explain. And often they end up just, order taking, really. That's a preference for most business, just to, take the order, Mr. Customer, yes, I want this. But with procurement, unfortunately, yes, they'll give you the order that they want, but they'll also ask for a huge discount and then a rebate on top of that. And all in all, what that does over time, it just increases all that price complexity for the supplier because, there's a proliferation of discounts and rebates and incentives in the system at a specific customer level and product level. So you could imagine, Aidan, that would be like millions of price points in the system. And getting back to the point of, okay, well, yes, the solution would be great. Let's implement some value discovery so we can start identifying the value, what our value offer is in terms of economic terms, psychological terms, at a unit price level, at a customer level. But sometimes I find with clients, they get a little bit reluctant and they react. They say, no, we can't do it. We've got deals. We've got it's almost like this firefighting mentality. We've got deals, transactions to make now. We don't have time for all of that stuff. And the more that they say that sort of thing, the more they get dig themselves into a deeper hole, really.
Yeah, look, I think, it's that old thing that I hate when people say in interviews, I don't see, I don't like problems. I don't see problems. I like challenges. I personally, at Taylor Wells, I love seeing when we get an inquiry from a B2B business, and the reason is because generally we know we can help them, and I would argue more so than probably a company in the retail or in the online, in the SaaS sector, whereby we discuss the problems, but basically we've just in a short conversation we've listed off a number of problems, but that basically means that there's a huge opportunity to improve things. And in an industrial or any sort of B2B business, and let's assume it's a semi-industrial, light industrial business which proliferated in Australia, whatever it is, from piping to to air conditioning, whatever that company would do. It's if you can slightly improve the pricing approach, your margins. If you can improve, at a small 1 or 2% to margin, my word, you could potentially double profitability and transform the business. So I suppose I'd ask Joanna about her thoughts on that.
Yes, I think on that point, clients get overwhelmed with changing pricing because they think, if we change it, that's it, we're going to lose volume, we're going to lose revenue, we can't make those changes, maybe we don't know how to. But the funny thing is, at the same time, they're making price increases routinely now that are either too big, too small, and not getting the return. So it's sort of a contradictory type of statement. Something has to be done. You can't just keep doing the same sort of thing. But really what needs to be done, it's a mindset difference, thinking that there is opportunity, positive thinking, and change doesn't have to happen overnight. It's a step-by-step process. And as you were saying, Aidan, even simple pricing analysis and techniques in cleaning up sort of a list price and price model, you can gain between 2 to 9% additional margin percentage points from doing very simple things. The more complex thing is, but you want people to believe in it. It's not complex. We've got to get people to believe that this is the source of value, that we can get the return of our investment, that we can sell our products easily, we can make it easy for our sales team to sell these products. If you haven't got that in place, people don't use a price list, even if it's been optimized. It's like very similar to a system. They don't use, a fancy pricing system or an ERP system or a CRM. We all hear we've got a great sales force in, but nobody's using it, or they're just putting junk in it, because they don't understand the rationale for change. And really, at Taylor Wells, we put a lot of importance in pricing, yes, in terms of the technical things that can drive EBIT, but the people behind the transformation, ensuring, the mindsets, people are aligned, they understand the rationale for change, they understand what they need to do, they understand how they're going to feed into the pricing project. There's a development plan and a blended sort of training and coaching plan that can help key people in the organisation do what they need to do to implement a price increase from start to finish, not just a generic type of training course that tells you theoretically what to do. So it's really embedding that learning that really gets sort of the longer term sustainable value. And I often say, it's great to get, a price list that's, up to date, market relevant. But with all those other problems that we've discussed, if people don't use it, people don't trust it, or people are just used to pricing, discretionary pricing themselves without understanding the ramifications of, why cost plus may not be the best methodology for a particular product or client, then they're going to continue doing it. So pricing really is a culture change. But it's a journey, and along the steps you can make significant changes that impact positively to culture as well as financially.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of B2B companies, they've got great products, they've got great services, they can be very well financially run, good CFO, good system, good capital controls, good all that sort of stuff. But how many really have great commercial teams? How many have great commercial focuses? I wouldn't say it's a blind area, but when we talk about pricing, that's what we're really talking about: commerciality, maximizing your selling price, maximizing your profitability over time. I sometimes think that is, and this could be a misconception, but I think people often focus on what they care most about, and I think a lot of companies, they care so much about their product, their service, their delivery, those sort of aspects. But maybe they haven't put the focus on the selling. Sometimes they've put the focus, like a lot of it. You think about certainly an industrial business. They started probably manufacturing, industrial services. That's where they came from. They didn't start as a selling business, and maybe they need that extra push, that little extra expertise in selling, commerciality, profitability, pricing, focus, to hold it all together.
Yes, I think so. The commission structures in a lot of sales teams are still emphasising, volume, and often at a reduced price to push a deal through. So in terms of, increasing commercial capability in sales teams, yes, I absolutely think that's important, because currently what we're getting is, salespeople who are going, well, we're being rewarded for doing that. Why would we do anything differently? Even though we know sort of people are saying, let's improve the profit on each sale, but still, I'm being incentivized and getting, to do the other. So I'm going to continue doing that because it's easier for me. And then you get that, taking orders rather than sort of increasing share of wallet, understanding a customer's business, understanding a customer's commercials and objectives from buying from you. Those discussions don't happen if you've got that sort of limited, I'm going to take your order, Mr. Customer, and that's it, because I know that's easier than actually asking you questions. I think this is the essence of a great value discovery process, because there's no point looking at a commercial model quite yet if you don't know what customers value and you haven't asked the questions about what pressures they're facing economically, what they're trying to achieve from their strategy, and ultimately why they're buying from you. So really asking the questions is imperative, and I think the number one thing that a sales team should do to help a business transform to a new business, an operating model, and to really get a business to understand its customer base. After that, you can then apply more fancy commercial models, and then help the sales team explain the economic value of the deal to the customer.
I think I'm all out of questions. So that's it from me. It feels a bit like an interrogation sometimes, but we'll leave it there today, I think. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for listening.